I'm back. We're having a morning of technical issues, so I'm hoping you can see me. I'm hoping you can hear me. I'm going to wait until LinkedIn tells me that we're live, and then I'm going to bring Lisa and Barry on to talk to us as well. We're going to be talking about how to make 2023 count and what lessons we've learnt in 2022 along the way. If you're running a business and want to grab some advice from two people who I absolutely trust and enjoy working with, then do join us and do ask your questions as well. This is telling me that I'm live on LinkedIn, so if you're here, let me know that you're watching. Pop your questions for us in the comments below, and we'll answer them live. Barry and Lisa have both significantly grown their profiles and their business in 2022. I'm going to be talking to them about what they've learned, what you can learn from them, and how you can make 2023 really count. We're a couple of minutes late because I was having technical difficulties, which seems to have plagued me all morning, but I'm going to be talking to my friend Lisa Robin Wood, who is an executive coach who I've got a huge amount of time for. Lisa's got a huge amount of knowledge and understanding and wisdom that she can pass on. And I'm going to be talking to Barry Clark, who is the sales and hospitality expert that I rely on if I have any questions about sales, if I want to tidy up my sales processes, if I want to understand my processes better. And I'm not going to try and point at them because I can never remember which way round it is when I point. Good morning, Lisa. How are you doing?
I'm great, thanks, Stefan. Thank you very much for having me. Always lovely to be here and to talk to you. So great to be here. Yeah, I'm cold, as I keep talking about. I'm sure everyone in the UK at the moment is cold. So I'm layering up. I'm layering up. But yes, I'm very good, thank you.
And are you cold all the way up in Glasgow, Barry, or are you coping with it okay?
I think we're maybe slightly more used to it up here, I guess. Yeah, winter arrived with a vengeance at the weekend, so we've had some pretty thick frosts. Looks very festive. It's very nice when you're out walking the dog early in the morning, but yeah, pretty cold.
And for the benefit of the viewers and the listeners, I'm doing all right here in West Oxfordshire. I'm actually perfectly warm, Lisa, and sorry, but I'm in short sleeves as well. So yeah, but I'm doing all right here. So I'm going to start with you, Lisa. Tell us a little bit actually about what you do and the type of people you work with. Let's start with that.
Yeah, brilliant. So I am a leadership and performance coach and a podcaster as well. And I work predominantly with managers, whether that's brand new managers, managers who are transitioning to a more senior role, or existing managers in a fairly senior role who are really keen to evolve and grow their people management skills so that they can be even better people managers for themselves and also their teams. And that's a big, heavy focus for me on well-being. So for me, the more you enjoy what you do and the more you feel great about what you do, the better job that you deliver, which I think is a bit of a no-brainer.
Yeah, well, you say that, but some people really need to think about it, and actually talking to you would be a brilliant start for a lot of people. Barry, same question for the people who aren't familiar with you. Give them a little bit of an insight into what you do.
Yeah, thanks indeed, Steph. Good to be with you again this morning. The umbrella that I operate under is as a business growth consultant. I help people to grow the businesses that they have already established, and often the sweet spot for me is working with businesses that are in the kind of 2 to 3 year since being founded, and they've got through the initial growth period, they survived the treacherous first 12 months, but they kind of reach that plateau point after 2 to 3 years where they stop growing. And that's when I really help people. So I focus a lot in terms of sales process and selling skills within the business. I help people to commercialize the ideas that they have. So people will start with, I've got this great idea, but I don't know what to do with it. And I help them drill down and turn it into a commercial product that they can sell and that people want to spend money to invest in.
That's so valuable as well because people sometimes get frustrated that people aren't digging their idea, people aren't understanding the value that they bring, and you help people actually capture that and deliver it to people in a way that they want to buy. I know that I've had those conversations with you, Barry, about how we structure things better so that people more clearly understand the value in what I do and why they should buy from me. That's been incredibly useful to me. I'm going to make sure I chair this so that we don't all talk over each other all the time. I'm going to start with you, Lisa, on this one. What have you learned in business in 2022 that you reckon might be useful for the other people who are watching and listening to learn as well?
I think the biggest thing I've learnt this year is related to the biggest change that I made in the approach with my business. And that was to recognize that actually, although I do work on my own and my business is a business of one, actually, I have a greater opportunity to achieve when I get out and meet people and spend time with other people, and not necessarily from a, I would say, an obvious sales generation perspective, but from the perspective of realizing that the more people I surround myself with and interact with, the more support I gain, the more I learn, the more I have the opportunity to give back, which I do think is so important for me in my business. Yes, I'm a coach, so I do love to support people, but actually just as a human being, I love to be able to interact and help others. And I think also really recognizing that actually to be able to grow your business does involve others, that just because you are on your own doesn't mean you take on all the responsibility all by yourself, that actually you only have a certain amount of skills, and it's about utilizing other people's skill sets and using those to help you to grow. And actually the more people I've met, I think the more I've learned, the more confident I've become, and that has led to more opportunities, I think, for my business, because of that that openness and ability to flex and grab any opportunity that kind of comes my way. So I think that's probably my biggest learning for this year.
Yeah, someone once said every big opportunity starts with a little conversation, and I think listening to that, it's about going out and starting those conversations, isn't it? The more people you interact with, the more you spot opportunities, because the more opportunities are put in front of you, and the more you learn about your stuff along the way as well. Barry was just talking about helping people to put their great idea into an actual product or service that can be sold. And one of the things that I've found over the years, Lisa, is that the more people I talk to, the more experience I get in talking to people about my stuff. So literally, the more I engage with other people. I loved what you had to say about helping people as well. I am rereading The Thank You Economy by Gary Vaynerchuk. I've been rereading that recently after having put it down a few years ago, and it talks about exactly that concept, about going out and being the helpful person and how you'll attract the right people along to you. I think that's it's brilliant that you're learning that along the way as well, because it's just who you are, isn't it? I know you as a very giving person, and you've had the chance to sort of demonstrate that this year. I'm going to ask you the same question, Barry. What's the sort of big lesson of 2022 for you?
I think for me, the big lesson personally, and also the conversations I'm having with my clients and connections, 2022 has been a year of getting on with it. After everything that we've had in the way over the last couple of years, the business world has certainly been open and it's been ready to do business. But my big learning this year has been it's a little bit different than what it used to be like. There was a lot of talk, this time last year. We can't wait to get back to normal. Well, I think we're in what normal is going to be moving forward, but it feels a little bit different than pre-COVID. It looks a little bit different, and people are behaving a little bit differently. And I think for any business owner, for operator, we've got to understand that. We've got to embrace it, and then we've got to adapt to this slightly different business world that we live in. And the kind of thing that I'm talking about, my big lesson from the last couple of years, I have a much greater appreciation of the value of time than I ever used to. And I've become more protective of my own time. I've become a bit more demanding of getting value out of my time and the time that I spend with my clients and with my connections, and to make sure that I get something meaningful out of how I use my time. And how, whatever that meaningful quality of how you use your time is, it's going to be different for all of us. And an example, I've been spending a lot of time recently, as anyone that follows me will have noticed, been spending a lot of time recently at expo events, getting out, meeting existing connections, making new connections, and I have to say, talking about doing business with people who I would never have met under any other circumstance. I've had to make the effort to go out and do that. And I see a lot of people at the moment kind of sitting back, waiting for them. And I'd say the world's 2022, and I think this will very much be the case going into 2023, change. It doesn't happen like that. You have got to make the effort to go out and find the business that you want to do. You've got to make the effort to go out and find the clients who you want to work with. If you're not happy with the clients you are working with, well, guess what? You need to make the effort to think about, actually, who do I really want to work with? Where can I find them? And right, I'm going to go and find them and connect with them and start building relationships. So I think for me, that's been my big lesson with 2022. It's been my busiest year. I've grown my business by about 40-50% this year. But I've had to get off my backside and make the effort to do that.
It used to be said back in 1988, 1989, that if you wanted to sell to the estate agents in Oxfordshire, the best thing to do was to turn up at the White Horse pub on the top of Headington Hill on a Friday night, because that's where you would find all of us. And I've sort of kept that in my head all over the years, and you've just reinforced that, Barry. People wait for stuff to come to them, and whilst I'm a big fan of inbound marketing, I try and do as much as possible to generate inquiries. You've both said the same thing. It certainly speeds things up if you actually go out and meet people. I'll tell you what I'm going to do for the benefit of the people who are watching. If you're not already connected with Lisa, that's where you'll find Lisa on LinkedIn. I really suggest that you do connect with her and go and search for the Coaching Cast podcast as well, where Lisa talks an awful lot of sense. But follow her and look for Lisa's content on LinkedIn. And if you don't follow Barry, that's where you'll find Barry as well on LinkedIn. Yeah, follow Barry for loads of advice about sales. And if you're in the hospitality industry, it really is worth connecting with Barry as well, because he knows so much about hospitality, and I know that he works with a number of independent hotels and venues around the UK. Let's press that button, which brings us back on screen again. What does 2023 look like for you, Barry? What have you got planned for 2023? What have you got coming up?
Some interesting things in my pipeline at the moment. I made a conscious decision throughout 2022 to slightly evolve my business and start working with bigger organizations, and that had some impact in terms of my pipeline. I tend to find the bigger the organization, the longer the conversation is taking, the more in depth the conversation is. But I've got some, a couple of really quite exciting things in my pipeline. I think in terms of what's 2023 going to be like for people, I think my message will be 2023 will be whatever you want it to be for you. If you're sitting here at the moment on the cusp of New Year and thinking, oh, new year, new start, new me, then that's what will happen for you. If you're sitting here embracing all of the negativity that we find in the mainstream media around us, the economy is in a terrible state and the business world's falling apart, guess what? You'll have a terrible 2023. If you're sitting here at the moment thinking, okay, I know what I'm going to do, I know how I can deliver great value for my clients, I know the kind of people that I want to work with, and I'm really focused on engaging with them, then guess what? You'll have a successful 2023.
It's about the mindset as well as the activity, isn't it, Barry? It's about actually following through on that, not just wishing it into reality. How about you, Lisa? What plans have you got for next year?
Yeah, it's interesting actually. I've got some synergy with Barry, and I love Barry's comment about the mindset, because I think, coming from a very corporate driven background before I set up my business, Q4 for me was a combination of rushing to the finish line as quickly as possible to achieve as many of the final objectives as I could, but always kind of with that mindset of December is going to be dead and it's quiet, and December is my opportunity to rest. And I think actually this Q4 for me has been the busiest that I've had all year. And actually, I've been using December to cultivate relationships ready for next year, which is a complete change in behaviour to what I would say I had in my 16-year corporate career, as well as also learning a little bit about how busy this time of year can be in hospitality, because I have a relationship with the hospitality industry too, having formerly owned and run a pub full time here in the Cotswolds. So I definitely think that mindset piece is so important and is contributing to how I'm approaching 2023, because January for me already has client work scheduled and I've got meetings organised with potential new clients around work for the rest of 2023. And that's already what I'm thinking of. And I think that's only come about from that shift in mindset. If I hadn't have thought about things in that way and changed my approach, I could have easily have switched off by now at this particular point in the year. So I'm excited already for next year, because yes, I've got those items in the pipeline. I'm keen to see them progress. So I'm already planning for how I can support that to happen as much as possible in right now. But I also think next year is going to be about doing even more of what I've been doing this year, which is trying to meet as many people as I possibly can, and in a way that is truly about building relationships and honest connections, and what will come of that will come of that. I kind of see every interaction as a chance to make a friend, and we'll help each other out and we'll see where it goes. So next year I'm doing even more traveling than I've done this year, and it seems like a really obvious thing to do, but it's only something that someone else has suggested to me in the last fortnight, which is, well, why don't you meet people while you're traveling? And I hadn't even thought of that, to be honest, which is sounds really stupid now I say it out loud. But it's such a good point, because I think, you know, Barry's mentioned the way the world of work has changed this year. One of the best advantages of it for me has been the remote working piece really becoming fully established and a lot more normal. And the fact that the world for me, especially because I've done more traveling, has become a lot smaller because of that, because I've been able to work anywhere. So actually, I'll be really focusing in on how I can build more work opportunities in all of the locations I'm visiting next year. And again, trying to be open-minded around what the possible is, and not always telling myself all the things that won't be possible, that I can't do, that will get in the way, which I think is possibly at times my natural stance. So I'm just trying to maintain that open-mindedness next year.
I think that's inspirational. Actually, building your business around the lifestyle that you love just makes so much sense. And yeah, you can meet people anywhere you go. All of those connections and all of those conversations are really valuable. I think that's a brilliant thing to learn. It is interesting how differently, well, if I'm talking to people, how differently they treat December than when they had a job, for example, because December is a time when you can get a ton of things done. What I am going to say, for the people who are watching this, if you've got any questions about mindset or networking or sales for Lisa or Barry or me, pop them in the comments below and we'll bring them up on screen and get them answered live as well. I do, in listening to you, Lisa, I love the fact that you constantly talk about what you're learning along the way. You're obviously really open to learning stuff from the people that you encounter along the way.
Oh, 100%. I think that is probably a big part of my coaching, both style, skills, and experience. But I think it was always a strategy, even in my corporate career, which was to approach every situation as an opportunity to learn, because actually it gave me more, I think, freedom to just try things out, not to be an expert, to appreciate that I was, having an opportunity to do something different and see where it turned out, which helped just relieve the pressure a little bit and also helped to manage any anxiety. Because I think, we're all held back more often than not by the way we think about things. And I am as guilty of that as anybody else, probably more so. My inner voice isn't very helpful. It's not a cheerleader. It's usually the opposite. So I think that's why being able to have an approach that's based on a learning helps me always to just manage what's going on, how I manage myself. And I think to be a little bit braver. I'm not the biggest risk taker, not really. That's my husband, not me. So actually, if I can see it as this could do something for you, this could help you, this could support you, this could change things, it just helps me to relax into it and just think, oh, I'm going to go for it.
I think that's really useful. The fact that you've got that real bit of you that's got, sounds like a very similar inner voice to mine actually, but that you understand that, because sometimes I think people have got this view, certainly I have actually, maybe it's just me, that sometimes coaches don't completely understand the inner voice that some of us have got that's talking us down most of the time. But yeah, you come at that from a place of real reality. That's your reality as well as other people. And it's really interesting because it is possible to deal with that, isn't it? It is possible to move forward. What's your inner voice like, Barry? Do you? This has taken us off on a tangent that I wasn't expecting, but I'm really interested to know, because you come across as super confident and calm when anyone's talking to you. Do you face similar challenges in business and sort of question yourself sometimes?
Absolutely. And it tends to be my kind of default reaction. Being an introverted person, I'm at the more introvert end of the spectrum than the extrovert, and that surprises a lot of people. I think I fall into the category of being the extroverted introvert, but I am an introvert at heart. So whenever anything doesn't go quite to plan, I will always tend to be quite self-critical. I will always tend to, what have I done wrong there? What could I have done differently? And I think that's quite a healthy approach to take, in as much as I'm always challenging myself to be better, to deliver more for my clients, for myself. But I think you also have to temper that sometimes with the ability to say, you know what, actually, I've done everything I could here. And it's funny. I'd be interesting to get Lisa's take on this. I've kind of, I guess, with the coaching and mentoring side of some of the work that I deliver, I've become very aware that the client, the end user, has to do the work. As the supporter, as the client, as the coach, as the mentor, as the trainer, we can impart the guidance, we can impart the knowledge, we can teach people how to do things. But I've actually become quite direct in a pleasant professional way. I've become quite direct with especially prospective and clients that I might be onboarding, that there isn't a magic wand. The universe isn't just going to suddenly change because you've engaged a coach or a mentor to help you. You've actually got to do the hard work. In between sessions, that's when you've got to go away and implement the things that we've been talking about. You've got to deliver the choices that you've committed to when we're having a coaching conversation. And the world just doesn't change because we've talked about something. You actually have to implement that choice. And as much as we coaches, consultants, as much as we can persuade, cajole, encourage, hold people accountable, they've actually got to make the change. And it's maybe one of the things over the last 12, 18 months that I've become quite strict about, that as much as I can, and it's not infallible, as much as I can is to really challenge people of, are you ready to start making changes? Do you really want to change, or are you still in that place of, you need to be doing things a bit differently, but you're not ready to take the step?
It's a really good point, because sometimes I think when people pay someone else for the sort of service that you provide, Barry, to help people with their sales and to help people to grow and scale their business, sometimes I think people think that just by paying your invoice that things are magically going to happen. And it's really interesting to hear you say that, because I know I've stumbled into that in the past where people have thought that just magically by working with me that they'll suddenly grow their network without actually putting in any effort themselves. And you two get it. How about you, Lisa, from your point of view? Do people understand that they've got to do the stuff in between the sessions when they work with you and when they talk to you?
I think it's a mix, to be honest. I think, Barry's experience is relatable to me and my own. I do think that what I'm really, really keen to do with every new coaching client I work with is actually to stress exactly what Barry's articulated, which is, this is my role and my responsibility as a coach, and actually you equally have a role and a responsibility in the relationship to be able to gain the outcome that you believe you're paying for at the start. That it's not it's very much a collaboration, and there's only so much that I can put in to help influence the result that they're looking for, but actually the majority of it is down to them and the actions that they're going to take. And it is an important, I think, part of the process to really clarify right up front, to manage expectations, to be really honest and transparent, and also I think Barry even said this, but I think it's being really clear on, you want them to get exactly what they're wanting, and they'll only get that when they have that understanding and realization of what is required of them. And I actually think it is the absolute power of coaching, is the realization of how capable you actually are. But you'll only get that as an output if you've put the work in the first place. If everyone's done everything for you, you're only going to get probably more of the same that you've always experienced. And you won't be able to move on independently or with that additional confidence or that improvement in your capability. You won't realise your full potential because you're still going to be reliant on other people. It actually really resonates because I've had a very recent experience of exactly this, and where the individual seemed very put out that it would be me asking the questions, and not them being given the answers. So that's interesting. But I think it has to be made clear so that actually for me as a coach, I know I'm delivering the full authentic experience and that individual is getting that opportunity. And if it's not the right time for them, if it's not even the right service, that's absolutely fine. It either will never be, or it may be in the future at a different moment, and that's fine. And I'm fairly relaxed and acceptable of that, which I'm sure in the world of traditional business doesn't really make a lot of business sense to say no thank you to a client, but I think it's really important.
It absolutely does. I mean, firstly, the difference between a coach and a mentor is very often misunderstood by people, and coaches help you to draw the answers out of yourself, and that's really empowering. I know you know this already, but actually working with the right clients is really important, and not working with the wrong clients is equally as important, for particularly for folks like us who are in the service business, in the B2B service business. I'm really enjoying talking to you, and equally, I don't want to keep everyone here all day, because I know that you folks have got real work to do as well. I'm going to just ask for, based on your experience, Barry, based on your experience in 2022 and before that, what would your one piece of advice be for people going forward into 2023? What one thing would you urge people to do to get the best out of next year?
So I think more so than ever, make everything that you do in terms of your service delivery, your product delivery, your relationship building, make it all about the client. Now, we've spoken at length this morning about working with the right people, making sure that you're selecting the right clients, and this kind of all fits into the same process. But I think now more than ever, it's critically important to really understand you're working with the right client, be really clear about the outcomes that the client is expecting, how realistic are those, what level of input there needs to be from the client to deliver the outcomes that they want to have, and have a really clear understanding of where your client is at. I think it's always a danger in economic times like this. Steph, you and I are of a similar age. We've worked through, I think this will be the fourth recession that I've worked through in my working life. And yeah, things will get a bit tough. It won't be an easy ride, but we'll come out the other side. And a lot of businesses will come out the other side stronger than they were when they went in. Unfortunately, some won't come out the other side, and there'll be a number of reasons why that happens. But it's really easy to talk yourself into a mindset right now of 2023 is going to be a really quiet year. It's going to be a rotten year. We heard this throughout the lockdown period. Oh, there's no business. My clients are all dead. And I was saying to people then, and I say it to them now even more so, engage with your customers, take them for a coffee, have the conversation, what's happening in your world. Because there will be businesses that are struggling, but for every one of them, there'll be other businesses that are thriving. And the harsh reality is, in economic crises, some businesses will flourish. Now, for everybody that's sitting watching this, whether it's live or you're watching the recording, you've got a bit of a choice there. You can choose to be one of the businesses that flourishes. Might mean that you have to adapt a little bit what you do. Might mean that you have to adapt to your customer bases. But there's business out there right now. I've been having a lot of conversations recently with connections, with prospective new clients, and with existing clients saying, actually, business is quite good at the moment. Even people in the hospitality world. And we're hearing a lot of stuff around about us saying that hospitality is on its last legs. Quite a few of my clients are saying, well, yeah, we're expecting it, but we're not actually seeing it. We're busy. People are spending money. I think people are very apprehensive about what's coming in the new year, what's coming in January and February. But right now, people are out there and spending money. So more than ever, really understand where your customers are at and make everything about delivering what your customers' outcomes are, delivering fantastic value, or under promise and over deliver in terms of the value. And really understand from the provider's point of view, what is the real value that you deliver for your customers, and shape every conversation around that. Then you don't need to be worrying about, you don't need to be talking about invoices getting paid. You don't need to be talking about fees and whether you can increase your fees. Because if you're delivering fantastic value, the number that you write in your invoice becomes, I like to say irrelevant. Irrelevant's maybe a bit flippant. It becomes less of the focus if you're delivering amazing value.
That's amazing advice. And also, if you know how to translate that value to people, and if you struggle with that and you're watching this, then go and talk to Barry. Lisa, what would be your big tip for 2023? What advice would you give to a business person entering the new year?
I would say do what you think is right, and don't get too consumed by what is going on around you in terms of others' opinions. And I think that can be in relation to the media, like Barry's just touched upon there. I think the media, especially over the last 3 years, has only fed us doom and gloom. And there is, I mean, of course, there is a lot that is not right in the world. I'm not suggesting that we sugarcoat it, but it's not all bad what's going on out there. And I think you can become too easily consumed by that kind of rhetoric and it only ever being in the negative, which is never going to be productive, I don't think, for you, especially when you are in a position where you've made the decision to take charge of your own life in terms of work and really put yourself out there and take risks. And so I think trying to really focus in on the opportunities, the positives as much as you can, and trust in the decisions you're making on the basis they feel right to you is a good approach. I think there are always going to be those who, especially I think from a personal perspective, your friends, your family, colleagues, ex-colleagues, peers, who will always tell you what you should be doing and what you shouldn't more often than not, especially from I think a friends and family perspective, because they only want to protect you. And I think at the end of the day, it's not necessarily about them what you're doing, and they're not the expert either in what you're doing. So I think have more belief in yourself. And I think as well, it's remembering you can course correct. I think this comes back to my focus in on learning. If you make a decision, it doesn't work out, make another one, try something else. Don't stand still with it, but think about what could you do differently, what could you try next, and what different direction could you go in, and just focus in on the action and the moving, because I think that helps you to maintain a productive space and not get stuck and not get in that space where you just wallow in what hasn't gone right.
I love that. Thanks for that. I think that whole bit about trusting your intuition and the people you trust to advise you, I think that's it. I found it really easy in my first few years in business to be blown around by other people's opinions as to what I should be doing, many of which were wildly contradictory, so you wasted a lot of effort rather than trusting your own intuition and having a couple of really sensible advisors there. I wasted a lot of effort just constantly being spun round. I'm really grateful for you two for spending some time talking with us this morning. If anyone who's watching the replay has got any comments, pop them in. Got any questions rather, pop them in the comments below, and I'll make sure I tag Lisa and Barry in them. I'm going to do the thing again where if you're not connected to Lisa, that's where you'll find her. That's where you'll find her on LinkedIn. If you're not connected to Barry, that's where you'll find Barry on LinkedIn as well. I really suggest you go and connect with those two folk. They are both really, really clever, and they don't keep their cleverness to themselves. They both put a ton of really useful content out there as well. Thank you, Barry and Lisa. We'll do this again. Thank you both of you. I'll speak to you both really soon.
Thanks, Stefan.
I'm going to press the button which takes us